Hello and welcome. So I thought I'd wrap up 2022 with a few videos. It's a bit of a switch up from the films and the shows. I want to talk about some books. Books is also a deep passion and love of mine, and there's a great wealth of 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 knowledge to gain from books also, and phenomenal stories, right? And so this past year, I came across this author that I'd never heard of before, and that's Chester Himes. Now, Chester Himes has released numerous books, but this particular series of novels here are crime fiction, and I have five here. Wonderful, wonderful cover art. There's great illustration on each of them that are quite like they don't tell you the full story, but they sort of they sort of make you intrigued, of what's to happen. And obviously, each artist has their own interpretation of the Chesterheim novel in question, of what that book's about, right? Now, this crime detective series is about these two detectives in Harlem, and they're very rugged and rough in their methods of solving these murders or crimes, whatever they may be. And Chester Himes, it seems that he's lived a life of someone that can relate to crime, to poverty, to the police procedural system, what life is like in Harlem in the times that he lived, because Chester Himes was born in 1909 in Missouri, but I would say a worldly man. I mean, he went from America. He I won't go too much into his story because I myself don't know too much. But what limited knowledge I do know, I can pass on. He spent time in prison. He honed his skill and found his love for and his talent. That he I'm not sure if he knew whether he was so talented, but he discovered that in prison. As far as I'm aware. And he went over to Europe. He went to France, and I think he was having trouble, or maybe he found opportunities outside of America. So he actually, I think he published his first, or published some form of this crime series in France. Found some success, some fame, and eventually, fast forward to 2022, and although these books weren't, I don't think these books were published in this year, but Penguin, the fantastic publisher, on this line here, the Modern Classics line, not sure if you can see that, but a Modern Classics line, phenomenal line. I mean, that's what attracted me to Chester Himes in the first place, because I was browsing the shelves of the bookstore, and I'm well aware of the Modern Classics, and I know that that's a deep well of a source of the best books ever written. Some of them at least. So I thought let's pick one out from the shelf and have a gander, and of course I think it may have been. I'm not even sure which one was my first one. Once I found one, I couldn't help over this year of just keep picking more up. They've got such great language that Chester Himes uses. The language so that's why I think he's such an authentic person, of why he was born to write these books, because he's been there, done that. Not necessarily everything that happens in the books. That's where your imagination comes into play as an author, but the what he's seen and what he's experienced just floods into this, just authentic as anything. It's probably the most authentic more authentic book I've ever read, like in terms of like source material, what he's going at. It's not the titles of the books: A Raging Harlem, all shot up, quite graphic, very graphic language. These two detectives, Coffin Ed and Gravedigger, they're very, like I said, they're rough, they're angry, they're well aware of the stigma of being in the police department, but they have their methods of cleaning up the streets. But it's a job that can never be completed, and I think they're aware of it. And Chester Himes is aware that, like, this Harlem was equally beautiful and equally, tough and morbid, at the times he lived, and there was a lot to deal with. 24/7, this city never sleeps, and it certainly, once it gets into the dark hours, that's when the city comes to life in terms of its evil and its learned behaviors, unfortunately. The heat's on. Cotton comes to Harlem. That's a real good story of racial, like a racial driven story on how Chester Himes uses migrating people migrating from one continent to the other and not finding a home in America, but that's all they ever know now. So then, the to move on, is that the right move, or have they found a home in America? It's, yeah, phenomenal. The real cool killers, yeah, I mean, there's more. I think there's 3 more. So I think in total there's 8. His final one was finished posthumously by someone else, because he passed away when he was writing the 8th one, I think it is. So there's 3 more to get, and I, for one, will be reading more Chester Himes in 2023, and I hope you do too. Thank you very much.